Now, our next guest was born and educated in Russia. He has some startling things to say about crime and sex in the Soviet system. Sounds like a Ukrainian drive-in movie. We'll be right back. And now let's meet a man who knows the seamy side of the Soviet Union.
Number one, what is your name, please?
My name is Yuri Brokhin.
Number two.
My name is Yuri Brokhin.
Number three.
My name is Yuri Brokhin.
And here is the Russian report of Yuri Brokhin. He says, I, Yuri Brokhin, know for a fact that despite official protestations to the contrary, crime and corruption are prevalent in the Soviet Union. To gather material on my native country's seamier side, I worked as a participant on a swindler's team, as a black marketeer, and as a gypsy cab driver. Despite propaganda touting the supposed marvels of the Soviet planned society, prostitution is brazen, police payoffs commonplace, and illegal gambling is widespread. In my book, On the Sleazy Side of the Soviet Streets, I reveal why Japanese tourists are the most highly sought after by the black market and Americans the least. My expose is titled Hustling on Gorky Street. Signed, Yuri Brokhin. And just offhand, I would say that the reason that the Americans are less sought after in Russia is that why should he go all the way over there to get what we've got so much of over here? But let's start the questioning anyhow with Kitty Carlisle.
Thank you. Well, in spite of your reasons, I'd like to ask number two, why are Americans least sought after?
Well, you know, the State Department scares them.
Ah, they think they might get into real trouble.
Yes, yes.
Number three, what is the reason for the Japanese being the most sought after?
Repeat the question again, please.
Why are the Japanese the most sought after in terms of swindling or whatever they're offering in Russia?
Because in Russia, have difficulty of life.
No, but why do they want Japanese customers?
Because they have good watches.
Oh, they buy their watches?
Absolutely, Seiko.
Number one, I didn't understand. When I was in Russia, somebody came up to me in a museum and asked me if I wanted to buy an icon, which I know is illegal. You can't take them out. But in view of the fact that everybody has to work in Russia, how could this boy have nothing to do all day except to try to sell fake icons to unsuspecting tourists?
He following to American way of life. He would like to be a capitalist in Russia.
But number two, what about his job?
And that takes us down, please, to Bill Keller.
Yeah, if they give the Japanese tourists trouble because they have the great watches and radios, they would think they would give the Americans trouble because we have all the Japanese watches and radios. We might be a little used. Number two, why is it that they do seek out the Japanese to swindle?
The Japanese are very particular people. They calculate on slide rule everything, how much it costs, and it makes sense, you know, because the kids offer them, or the grown-up swindlers, they offer them good deals, you know, more than in a bank, you know. And the Japanese go for that. And they have the equipment, the watches and all that stuff.
They really go for that, number two? Okay, now, number one, what is the country that sends most of the tourists to the Soviet Union?
I think Italian.
Number three, is there much of a German representation, German tourists in Russia?
Yes.
Number three, what do you do when you're not writing? I mean, what is your ordinary occupation over there?
Taxi driving.
Buster takes us, please, to Peggy Cass.
Number three, did the Russians give you permission to come here to promote your book? I mean, how'd you get out?
No. I have to smuggle out.
How did you smuggle out?
Well, it's a secret.
Oh, okay. Number two, if I wanted to gamble in Russia, how would I go about getting into like a crap game?
Well, taxi driver, you know, is your best bet. You talk to taxi driver, he knows where to go. You give him 10%, I mean, you give him what you call tip.
Tip, yeah, oh, okay. Well, now, number one, I have many friends who've gone to Moscow, and they say it's as clean as the driven snow. So where was all this going on when my friends who were looking for a little fun never found it? It can't be that commonplace.
Sorry, the question is that to the end of your question, I forget from what you began.
What are you laughing at? Now, number one.
I want that graven in marble. I don't know what. I can't remember how it went, but I'll think about it. Orson.
Yes, I'm fascinated to hear that there are hookers over there. I never knew. Sidewalk stewardesses in Red Square, eh? Number two, are these looked upon as, are they organized? For instance, not, I guess there aren't unions in the Soviet. Are there any unions over there, number two?
Officially, there is no prostitution in the Soviet Union.
Officially?
No.
Yeah.
Unofficially, a lot. You know. But unfortunately, it's not as organized as here in America.
Unfortunately? Yes. Well, number one, what happens? Do they just drive a tractor in from out and leave the tractor somewhere and pound the pavement a little while? And, are these moonlighting housewives or full-time pros or what?
Well, in Russia...
I'm keeping the question short for you, number one.
In Russia, we have a lot of part-time hookers because their full-time salary not enough to be just respectful member of the society.
Yes. Oh, mercy.
Well, there we go, friends. We have learned a lot. There's a lot we haven't learned, but the bell has gone off, and we must mark our ballots for number one, or for number two, or for number three. And Kitty Carlisle, take off with you.
I voted for number one. He has a very amusing turn of mind, and I think you would have to have that to do this kind of a book. I don't know how he got out of Russia, but I'm glad he's here.
So we have a one, and we're going down to Bill Cullen, please.
Contrary to popular opinion, things are terribly expensive in the Soviet Union. I'm speaking from experience. Cost me 20 rubles just to see your stamp of approval.
And so we have a one and a three, and Peggy.
I don't get that. Well, anyway,
Let me see your stamp of approval.
number one certainly didn't just come over from Russia because he can even tell jokes in English. And number two, he's so sweet and innocent looking. No, I think it's number three because he had a little more trouble with the English language, and he was going to keep Howie Get Out a secret, and he's not fresh either.
So, for all those reasons, we've got a pair of threes and a one, and Orson B.
I voted for number two. I think that's a backward.
The marbles, too.
I voted for number two. He looks like a writer to me.
Looks like a writer. Very well. Everybody has got one, three has got two. The votes are in. Will the real Yuri Brokhin please stand up? Yeah.
I always get the writers.
Thank you, Mr. Brokhin. Now let's go on down the line and find out about the rest of us. Good team. Number two, sir, what is your real name? What do you do?
My name is Michael Gnuchev, and I'm an interpreter for the State Department, Russian interpreter, and I just finished doing the Apollo-Soyuz link-up interpretations.
Oh, fine. And number three, tell me about you, please.
I'm Prince Mishevsky. I'm in jewelry business.
Well, now. Mr. Brokhin, if you are a secret agent for the Russian Tourist Bureau, I think you've done a lot of business here today, and I want to thank you for being with us, and gentlemen also. Take care.
Don't send money order to Russian Tourist Bureau. Send to me.
Send to you.